I didn't speak to anyone for 3 days after that brunch. I ignored Mom's calls, let Dad's check-ins go to voicemail, and deleted every one of Lila's messages without opening them. I just couldn't look at her name without feeling a mixture of rage and heartbreak, like I'd been kicked in the chest by someone I loved deeply for too long. It wasn't even about the wedding anymore. Not really. It was about what it represented. I had given them everything: my time, my energy, my youth. And now, at the one moment where she could have shown me I mattered, she shut the door in my face. No explanation, no apology, just tight budget, like I was some distant cousin they barely knew. But I wasn't going to beg. I was done begging. On the fourth day, Mom showed up at my apartment. She used the spare key she insisted on keeping for emergencies. I hadn't cleaned. There were dishes in the sink, laundry unfolded, and Chinese takeout containers scattered across the counter. She walked in like she owned the place and started talking before I could even form a sentence. "Sweetheart, you can't shut us out like this. Lila didn't mean to hurt your feelings." I crossed my arms. "She didn't hurt my feelings, Mom. She erased me." Mom huffed. "Don't be dramatic." There it was. That word again. Dramatic. Selfish. Ungrateful. The trifecta of labels they always threw at me whenever I voiced anything that didn't serve their convenience. I was practically their third parent. I snapped. I raised her kids. For free. For years. And she didn't even invite me to her wedding. She said it's a small event. Mom argued. "Not everyone can make the cut. It's not about you." "Exactly," I said coldly. "It never is." That shut her up. She stood there for a moment, probably calculating the best way to guilt trip me back into submission. But for the first time in my life, I didn't cave. I didn't soften. I didn't rush to smooth things over like I always did. "Please leave," I said quietly. "Excuse me?" I said, "Leave, Mom. If you can't understand how betrayed I feel, then I don't want you here right now." Her eyes widened. She'd never seen me like this before. Assertive. Cold. Unapologetic. She left without another word. And for the first time, I felt something like peace. The days turned into weeks. I focused on work, on sleep, on breathing. Lila kept trying to reach out. A voicemail here. A just checking in text there. She even sent a bouquet of flowers once, with a card that read, "I hope you know I love you. I never meant to make you feel left out." But she never actually invited me to the wedding. Not even after the silence. That's when I realized something important. I had never been family to them, in the way they were to me. I had been useful. I had been convenient. I had been the unpaid nanny, the emotional sponge, the stand-in mother when real parenting was too hard. But I had never been their equal. I was the support beam, not the structure. And now that they didn't need me to carry the weight anymore, they didn't care whether I stood or fell. The wedding was 2 months away when the final blow landed. I was at the grocery store when I bumped into Aunt Mira, Dad's sister. She looked thrilled to see me, chatting about the weather and some shows she was binge-watching. Then she dropped it casually like it was no big deal. "I can't believe Lila's having the wedding at the lake house. That place is stunning in June. Have you picked out your dress yet?" I froze. "The lake house?" She blinked. "Yes. Didn't you hear? Ben's parents rented it for them. It's going to be a 3-day weekend thing. Super fancy." I tried to smile, but my stomach turned. "I'm not invited." Her jaw dropped. "What? That must be a mistake. You're her sister. You basically raised her kids. Tell that to her." I muttered, grabbing my cart and walking away before she could respond. I barely made it to the car before I burst into tears. Even extended family thought it was absurd. Even people on the fringes could see how wrong this was. So why couldn't my own sister? 2 weeks before the wedding, I got a final message. It was a voice memo. Short, quiet, hesitant. "Hey, I know you're still angry, and I don't blame you. But I wish you could come. I wish things were different. I don't know how to fix this." It wasn't an invitation. It wasn't even an apology. It was a cop-out. She wanted me to forgive her without her admitting she was wrong. She wanted closure without confrontation, peace without accountability. And I wasn't going to give her that. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I wrote a letter. "Dear Lila, I want you to know I'm not angry anymore. Not in the way you think. I'm not fuming. I'm not waiting for a text or an invitation or some grand gesture of redemption. Because I've finally realized something. You never saw me as your sister. Not in the way that matters. You saw me as a convenience, a babysitter, a backup plan, someone to absorb your chaos so you could live your life untouched by consequence. You asked me to give up sleep, time, milestones without ever once asking what I needed. You never offered to repay me, support me, or even celebrate me. And now, with this wedding, you've made it abundantly clear, when it comes to joy, I'm not part of your story. So I'm writing my own now. I won't be there in June. I won't stand in the background holding your purse while you pose in white. I won't clap for a love that thrives at the expense of mine. I'm done living in the shadow of people who only look for me when they need saving. I'm not your babysitter anymore. I'm not your fallback. I'm your sister, and if that doesn't mean enough to earn a seat at your table, then I'll build my own. Good luck. May didn't send it to her. I didn't need to. Writing it was enough. Saying the words even silently was like releasing a decade of weight I didn't know I'd been carrying. For once, I wasn't waiting for them to change. I was changing me. A week before the wedding, I booked a solo trip, just me, somewhere, far from the lake house, far from the memories, far from the lies. I turned off my phone. I packed a bag, and I left. Not in anger, not in bitterness, but in freedom. They had their big celebration, their lakeside vows, their filtered Instagram photos, and filtered relationships. And I had something better, a life that finally belonged to me. I was 14 when my older sister, Leela, had her first child. I still remember the day she told our family at the dinner table she was barely 20, shaking and crying, and Mom clutched her chest like she'd been personally betrayed by the universe. Dad didn't say a word, just stood up and left the room. But me? I was the one who held her hand through that entire storm. I didn't even understand what pregnancy really meant back then. But I knew she was scared. And scared people need someone who won't leave them. So I stayed. And that's how it all started. When little Max was born, it was like everyone around me forgot that I was still a kid myself. I'd come home from school, drop my backpack, and immediately be told to go check on the baby. Mom and Dad were too tired or too old to chase after a newborn, and Leela was drowning in her own postpartum fog. So, it fell to me, the quiet one, the reliable one, the invisible sister, to pick up the pieces. At first, it felt noble, like I was doing something good. I learned how to change diapers before I could solve algebra equations. I knew what brand of formula Max preferred. I'd rock him to sleep for hours, even when my own eyes were burning with exhaustion. I thought maybe this is what family means. Sacrificing so someone else doesn't break. But 1 month turned into 6, then a year. Then Max turned 2, and Leela had another baby, Ellie. That's when I stopped being the helper and officially became the babysitter. At 16, I had stopped going out with friends. Not that I had many years of being unavailable kind of puts a strain on social life. Whenever my classmates would invite me to the movies or a birthday party, my standard response was always, I can't, I'm babysitting. Eventually, the invites stopped coming. Leela would drop the kids off on weekends so she could go out with her friends. Or boyfriend, first Kevin, then Matt, then finally Ben, the guy she'd eventually marry. My parents, they acted like it was all normal, like I was just being helpful and pitching in. I never got paid, not even once. No thank you gifts, no acknowledgement on birthdays, not even a card. They'd just drop off the kids and leave, sometimes with dirty diapers in the bag, sometimes with no formula prepared, and I'd be left figuring it out again. I remember crying once when Max had a fever and wouldn't stop crying, and Leela didn't pick up her phone for 3 hours. I was scared out of my mind. He was burning up, and I didn't know what to do. When she finally came, she was annoyed, not because her son was sick, but because I blew up her phone while she was out at a bar. You're not their mom, she snapped. Stop acting like you know everything. That line cut deeper than I ever admitted, because no, I wasn't their mom. But I was always there, more than she ever was. I tried to bring it up with Mom once. I told her I was exhausted, that I couldn't focus on my schoolwork because I was always babysitting. That maybe Leela should look into daycare or part-time help. You know what she said? She's your sister. Family helps family. You should be grateful they trust you. Grateful, that word boiled my blood. Grateful for what? The way Leela screamed at me when Max spilled juice and I didn't catch it in time. The way I missed my prom because she had a last-minute girls' trip and dropped both kids at my door. I tried to say no. Once. Just once. It was a Saturday morning, and I was preparing for a school debate competition I had been working toward for weeks. Leela called me, saying she needed to drop Max and Ellie off for a few hours. I told her I couldn't, I had plans. She laughed. Oh, come on. Don't be selfish. Selfish. As if I hadn't already given her my entire adolescence. She showed up anyway, dumped the kids on the porch, and left before I could stop her. That day, I stood there staring at the closed door for a full minute before picking up Ellie, who was crying and dragging myself back inside. I missed my debate. My team lost, and nobody cared. By the time I turned 20, I had been raising those kids for nearly 6 years. They called me Auntie Mommy sometimes by accident, and that alone tells you all you need to know. Meanwhile, Lila's life was blossoming. She got a job, went back to school, got engaged to Ben. Suddenly she was glowing, fashionable, the center of attention at every family gathering. And I was still the one chasing after Max when he ran too close to the street. I was the one cleaning up Ellie's messes when she spilled food all over the floor. At some point, I started to fantasize about leaving, just packing up and disappearing, moving away for college, finding my own life, starting fresh. But I never really believed I could, until something finally snapped. It was a Sunday brunch, some extended family gathering with cousins and aunties and people I hadn't seen in years. Lila walked in wearing a white dress, beaming and holding hands with Ben. She tapped her glass and said, "We have an announcement." I froze. My stomach knew what was coming before my brain caught up. "We've set the date. We're getting married in June." Everyone cheered. Mom wiped a tear. Dad actually smiled. Lila looked like a fairy tale bride, basking in the applause. I clapped, because what else could I do? But inside, I was screaming. Later, I cornered her in the kitchen and said, "So, will you need help with the kids during the ceremony?" Lila looked confused. "Oh, actually, no. We've already made arrangements." I blinked. "Arrangements?" "Yeah. Ben's cousin offered to take them for the weekend. We really want it to be an adult-only event. Super intimate." That word intimate burned. "Wait, are you saying I'm not invited?" Lila looked so uncomfortable. "Look, don't take it personally, okay? It's just, we had to keep the guest list small. We're on a tight budget. You know how it is." I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. None came. She was serious. She wasn't inviting me to her wedding. I left early that day. Didn't say goodbye, didn't look back. In the car, I finally let the tears fall. All those years. All the times I gave up my own life for her family. All the times I rocked her babies to sleep, missed my milestones, lost my friends, lost my youth, and I wasn't even good enough to watch from the back row on her big day. I guess I was just a placeholder, a convenience, a background character in her story. But not anymore. Something inside me hardened that day. I realized that if I didn't choose me, no one else ever would. I used to think grief brought families closer, that losing someone would make us put aside old fights, stand shoulder to shoulder, and hold each other through the darkness. But my parents' death didn't unite us, it exposed every ugly truth we'd been pretending didn't exist. My name is Alina. I'm the youngest of 4 siblings: Sarah, Michael, David, and then me. We weren't exactly the tight-knit type, but we had our moments. Movie nights, road trips, late-night laughter that echoed through the halls of our childhood home. Growing up, I always felt like the outsider. Not unloved, but overlooked. Quiet, the sweet one. The one who never caused trouble, who didn't ask for much. The silent sibling. After my mom died of breast cancer 2 years ago, my dad didn't last long. He'd always been strong, stoic even, but after she passed, it was like watching a sturdy old tree rot from the inside. He'd sit in his recliner for hours, watching the same shows on repeat, barely speaking. I visited him every weekend, sometimes more. I brought groceries, cleaned the house, made sure he took his meds. My siblings, they showed up for the holidays, maybe a birthday, rarely more. When he passed, I was devastated but not surprised. I held his hand in the hospital as he took his final breath. He looked at me and whispered, "You were always there, Lena. Thank you." His eyes closed, and that was it. I was alone in that sterile room, listening to the beeping machines go still. The funeral was quiet. Small, my siblings flew in, shedding tears and sharing memories, but it all felt performative, like they were playing their roles in a family drama they barely remembered. I tried not to judge. Grief hits everyone differently. Then came the reading of the will. We gathered in the lawyer's office. I sat with a knot in my stomach. Dad had hinted over the years that he wanted to make things right before he passed. I didn't know what that meant exactly, but I held on to hope. He'd always been fair, even if my siblings didn't see it. He knew I'd been there. The lawyer, a kind-eyed man named Mr. Halverson, opened the folder and began to read. It started normally enough, sentimental words about our family, memories, how proud our parents were of all of us. But then he reached the section that changed everything. To my son David. I leave the house and surrounding property. My stomach dropped. To my son Michael, I leave the business account and remaining stocks. I blinked. To my daughter, Sarah, I leave the savings accounts and life insurance proceeds. The air in the room shifted. And to my daughter Alina, I leaned forward, heart pounding. I leave my love and gratitude. May the memories of our time together be your strength and comfort in the years ahead. Silence. It was like someone had punched me in the chest. I looked around the room, expecting someone to speak up, laugh, say it was a mistake. Nothing. Sarah cleared her throat. That's sweet, sweet. Wait, I said, my voice cracking. That's it. No money, no property, not even the car. Mr. Halverson adjusted his glasses. I'm afraid that's what your father specified. The will is legally binding. Michael leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. Well, he must have had his reasons. Reasons? I asked, staring at him. I was the one who took care of him. I was the one who was there every weekend, every holiday, while you were all living your lives. Sarah gave a tight smile. Come on, Alina. You're overreacting. Overreacting, David chimed in. We all had our roles. Just because you were physically there doesn't mean the rest of us didn't care. I felt like I was in a nightmare, like the walls were closing in. I turned to Mr. Halverson. Is there a letter? Something from him? Anything that explains this? He looked through the folder, then paused. Actually, there is something. He handed me a sealed envelope with my name on it. My hands trembled as I opened it. My dearest Alina, I know this will hurt, and I'm sorry. I wish there were more I could do. You gave me more than any amount of money ever could. Your time, your kindness, your presence. You were my anchor. I've left the assets to your siblings because I believe they need it more. You, I trust to survive, to thrive. You have strength they'll never understand. Be grateful for the memories, my sweet girl. Love always. Dad, I couldn't breathe. The words blurred on the page. I looked up, my face burning. He left me nothing. I whispered, because he thought I was strong. Michael shrugged. Sounds like he believed in you. Sarah reached across the table and patted my hand. You still have us. That's when I snapped. No, I said, standing. I don't have you. I never really did. They just watched me gather my things, expressionless, like they'd won something. That night, I went back to the house that now legally belonged to David, and sat in the driveway for an hour. I didn't go in. I didn't even knock. I just stared at the windows, remembering Christmas mornings, burnt pancakes, Mom's perfume in the hallway, the way Dad used to hum while doing the dishes. Be grateful for the memories. I couldn't even cry. I felt hollow. Over the next few weeks, things deteriorated further. David changed the locks on the house and told me, it's nothing personal. I just need to get it ready for sale. Michael sold some of Dad's stocks and bought a new car. Sarah updated her Instagram with a caption that said, grateful for fresh starts and family blessings. I wanted to scream. I tried talking to them, pleading, not for money but for fairness, for acknowledgement, for them to see me. Michael accused me of being entitled. Sarah said I was letting grief cloud my judgment. David told me I needed to move on and stop making things difficult. I stopped answering their calls after that, but I wasn't done. Not even close.